Hello and welcome to your first guitar lesson. I'm going to talk about the basics of guitar, the anatomy of the guitar, how to get a good sound, get a good couple finger exercises to practice every day, and tell you a few of the differences between electric guitar and acoustic guitar. I think right off the bat, acoustic and electric for a beginner guitar player, there's really not that much difference. I think that you actually should start on electric if you're a smaller child because it's just easier to play and the body is smaller. So here is my acoustic guitar and it fits comfortably with me. I have a stack of books that my right foot is sitting on, and it helps the guitar just elevate the guitar into a easier playing position. So guitar has 6 strings. The closest string to you, this one right here, is called the 6th string. So actually the lowest sounding string is the 6th string, and they go from low to high. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the highest string is the 1st string. The 1st string is the E string. We have 2 E strings actually. The 1st string and the 6th string are both E. Can you hear how they are the same note but different pitch? We have a lower version of an E and a higher frequency of an E. There's a E in between both of those. So we have E, E again, and E on the top. So the 6 strings are E, A, D, G, B, E. From high to low, we have E, B, G, D, A, E. 6 strings, they are the same 6 strings on electric guitar. This is standard tuning, so just those natural pitches, E, A, D, G, B, E. So, anatomy of the guitar, we have the head of the guitar right here, the head. We've got tuning pegs, which change the pitch and make you able to keep the guitar in tune when it goes out of tune. We have a nut right here, which the strings rest on. The long part is called the neck. On the neck, we have the frets. The frets are probably the most important because they distinguish different pitches. So I'm playing on the 6th string, 3rd fret right here. 3rd fret, 5th fret, 3rd, 3rd, 5th, 3rd, 5th. And so you have to press down on the string so it rubs against the fret. You don't have to squeeze into the guitar. At first it might seem like you do have to squeeze with your hand, but all you have to do is just push down enough so that the string is rubbing against the fret and a solid connection is made. If you don't press down hard enough, then you will hear a sound like that. I'm just kind of not very much pressure, and then as I put pressure down, you can hear a solid connection. So yeah, you don't want that buzz. You have to press it and let that note ring out. And when you're first playing, make sure those notes ring out. Play that. Just let them ring out for as long as possible. Okay, so the frets are what actually give us different pitches. The higher the fret, the higher the pitch. So I'm on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, which is a low G. Then if I go up to the 7th fret, that's higher. I'm playing G to B. And you see my guitar's got different dots on it. Those are called inlays. Most guitars have inlays on 3, 5, 7, and 9, and 12. 12 has got 2 dots because that is where the octave is. So I described an octave earlier with we have two different E's. One is a low E, one is a high E. Essentially, this is where the guitar starts over. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and E again. If I just play the natural notes, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And so that's where all of the strings, they basically start over. So when I'm playing up on the 12th fret, I actually just think of the 12th as open. And then this becomes 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. I don't like to think 5th, 15th fret, 17th fret. I'm thinking of just the guitar repeating over. More specifically, I'm thinking about the actual note. That this is a G. So different chord shapes, different chords. Knowing what those notes are really helps you in all aspects of your playing. So then that brings us to the body. The acoustic guitar has got a sound hole, and then we've also got a bridge down here, and then the strings rest on a saddle, and then these little pegs hold the string down in the guitar. Strings are usually called on acoustic and electric have ball end strings because there's a little ball on the end of the string that these just kind of catch and hold down and hold in place. So that is the anatomy of an acoustic guitar. Electric guitar, really not very different. There is no sound hole. There's pickups instead. The pickups are what send the electric signal. These pickups right here are pickups. They send the electric signal to the amplifier. And then so on your electric guitar, we've also got a plug-in to hear the guitar, but you've got volume controls and your pickup selector. Pickup selector just means, hey, this is, when it's pointed down, straight down towards the bridge, that's this pickup. This Fender Stratocaster has 3 pickups, so I can actually use both of these at the same time. With that setting, right in the middle, that's just the pickup. Then there's a setting for both of those two, and then all the way up is just the neck pickup. And so we've got volume and then tone controls, which just let you control more frequencies. For beginners and intermediates, I usually just recommend that you turn the volume and tone all the way up, because that doesn't make a huge difference until you're playing nicer instruments. So, to play guitar, it requires a lot of finger strength and dexterity, but you don't have to take steroids to get the kind of strength you need to press down on the frets. I think chords are a little harder at first. I find adult students can play chords pretty easy because since they have a fully developed hand, they can just use their finger strength to physically make those shapes. But going from chord to chord is usually tricky because they're squeezing so hard that they have to release that pressure and then find the chord and then again add the pressure. So you don't want to squeeze when you're playing guitar. That is something that really takes quite a while to grasp and understand, but once you get that, it really frees up your playing, because you don't want to be playing really hard, because that locks up your hand. And squeezing, you want to be nice and loose so you can just move around however wherever the music requires you to move freely to. So I like to just start with the most simplest exercises Usually for young students, we will just do a simple finger exercise. And when I say young, I'm talking about 5 or 6. It is possible to teach 3 and 4-year-olds. I've never taught I have a nephew, but we just really have fun. I wouldn't say that they're lessons. But you have to place each finger on a fret. And when you're playing the fret, you don't actually go right on top of it. You go directly behind it. So when you're playing 5th fret with your pinky right here, you can actually touch the fret. I'm gonna try to get a better angle here. You can actually touch the side of the fret, but you can notice the second you go over it, that kind of buzzed, muffled sound is compromised. So you just want to press down into the guitar, not squeezing. You have to find that Goldilocks zone of not too hard, not too loose. It's right in the middle. I find the best guitarists on the planet, though, they've got the lightest touch. And those players are usually the fastest players with the lightest touch because they're not squeezing, so they can just move a lot quicker, a lot more fluidly. So, these finger exercises that I'm doing right here, we're just doing one finger at a time, just playing the frets, okay? Just get your students to be able to do this. It doesn't matter what the speed is. Just get them to play a note and just work their fingers. Younger students, I would just stay in one position. They're not going to be able to play it that fast, but most likely they'll go like this. That's usually how a first student usually plays those 4 notes. And it's sometimes, like, you'll see these weird hand shapes. You want to avoid that. You want the fingers to always be pointed down at the strings. You never want to be pointed any other way. They should always be above the fretboard, just kind of hovering. And they should never be farther than just the lowest string or the first string. They should just always be over the neck, ready to play any note at any given time. If your finger is down here, then it takes just that much time. And that much time in music is a lot, actually. It's a big amount of time. So that's why you always want to be pointed down at the guitar. And how do you practice that? Well, you've got to do your scales and your exercises slow. I don't necessarily recommend the metronome right away for beginning students because it's just too much stuff. When you're teaching your students, it's good for you to be there with them and kind of coach them along as you're doing it, subconsciously, getting rhythm in the back of their mind there. But really, my personal way of teaching, just get them to make a sound, and a good sound on the guitar. I think just asking them to play that with the metronome rhythmically is just asking a little too much. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. But when compared to like a piano, where all we're doing is playing one key, one key, one key, one key. Okay, and then probably the thumb, ba 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 ba. That's usually one of your first things you learn on piano. C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. Doing something like that in both hands. That is way easier than, because we have to both, when I haven't even talked about picking yet, you have to pluck the right string You have to find the right fret. You have to press down the right amount of pressure. So, trying to introduce the concept of time, especially for a young child who is 5 or 6, I think is a little overwhelming. Older students who, as you get older with each year, they can, some kids can do that easily right off the bat. And for those kids that can, I give them the spider walk, which is another exercise. One of the first exercises that I ever learned, my dad taught me. It's just starting down on the 4th fret and then going up all the way to the 12th fret. I'm going pinky, ring, middle, pointer. All right, so I did 4, 3, 2, 1. The frets, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I go 5, 4, 3, 2. Same fingers. Move it up. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so now you should be on the 9th fret with your pointer finger. And you can do this on every string. But then you take it back the other way down. Pointer, middle, ring, pinky, pointer, middle, ring, pinky. Okay? And you should do that in all the strings. If a student is having trouble moving it around, then I might just tell them to do it in one position or do it on multiple strings. Or do some iteration of it. I really like the spider walk because, like I just showed you, you can make it your own little exercise, make it into whatever you need to practice. You can use it in many different ways. And then lastly, to talking about picks, I hold my pick in between my thumb and my pointer finger. That. And yes, I'm a classical player, so I use my fingernails. But I don't recommend that for your very first lesson. That comes into intermediate territory. And what you should do with the pick is, I prefer a thick pick. I've got a really thick pick. This is a Jim Dunlop USA 3 millimeters. It's called the Big Stubby. I've just only in the past year started using them, but I find that you can actually play with less intensity and still get a loud response from the guitar. So I always found that I was, even when I was using do I have my purple pick up there? No, I don't. But I, like the Tortex purple thick picks, but I found that I was still digging in too hard. But with these picks, I don't have to dig in as hard because they're extra thick. Anyway, so I recommend a thicker pick, and basically not a thin pick for a beginner. Thin picks, I really think the only good reason to use a thin pick is if you're just strumming chords the entire time. If you're just... I think thin picks is, an okay job, but, I never use thin picks. I only use thick. So I grip my pick between my thumb and the pointer finger. And as a general rule, I just say point the pointy end down at the guitar and always alternate down and up. And do that on all the strings. And I might give an exercise where you might just, if they're a young beginner and they're having a lot of difficulty with the left hand, we will just go and do right hand exercises. I like to go D, G, B, G, D, D, G, B, G, D, G, B, G. Because that's a chord. It's a G chord, but it's an inverted chord. We're starting with the 5th root, 3rd root. but it's just a nice little sounding open thing you can do. And just go down and up with it. You can practice alternating. I'm not a huge stickler right off the bat for alternating picking. Like I said, just overload of information. Just get them to make sure that they can play the exercise. Get it sounding good. And then you can make variations. Go from D, B, G, B. And that really can take up a lot of time. And if all of that is gone through in your first lesson, you're still looking for things to do, I would try to teach both Smoke on the Water and Iron Man. Just because Iron Man's on one string and Smoke on the Water is in one position. And you can do both of those on any string. So if the student is having difficulty reaching the 6th string, you can say, all right, let's just play it on the 1st string. And I usually do not start with notes in the first lesson. I just use numbers, use tab. Notation comes in the 2nd or 3rd lesson. The standard notation, because I find that Smoke on the Water, I think kids think it's fun. Kids nowadays don't know the history of it and have never really heard the song before unless their dad has taught them it already, or mom, or brother, or sister. It doesn't matter. But so you have open 3 5, open 3 6 5, open 3 5 3, open. And the goal again is just to get notes down. It's not to play it rhythmic. It's not to play it fast. It's just to get the notes right. And usually I have to tell them, okay, first open 3 5, and they'll go open 3 5. Then remind them open 3 6 5. And if it's the first time and they only want to use the one finger, that's fine. Then you have open 3 5 3, open. Then once they've done that, make them do it 4 times, and then do it on a different string. Move it down. Why do I think it's good, this Smoke on the Water? Is because it kind of uses the same idea as the Spider Walk does. It's all in the same position, one string, and truthfully, we're only using 3 fingers. Open 3 5, open 3 6 5, open 3 5 3, open. I'm sorry, I did not say that open. When you're playing the guitar open, you're just strumming the strings, meaning that you're not pressing down on the fret. So an open string is just strumming the string without pressing down on the fret. So you go open 3 5, open 3 6 5, open 3 5 3, open. And then if there's still more time in your lesson, Iron Man is a great song because it can be played on one string, and it also helps teach moving up and down the neck. So 2 5 5 7 7 10 9 10 9 10 5 5 7 7. And I think the actual song, would be a little different, but again, we're teaching beginners here, so we don't need to get that perfect hammer-on, pull-off slur, or however Tony Iommi really plays it. I think that's what he actually does. But when I play it and I teach it, that's just easier to explain to a kid in a single lesson. So those two songs can take up, the first 2 lessons, and you really should just review all of that material for 2 lessons. Unless the student has practiced a lot, can play all of those, can play the Spider Walk on every string, Smoke on the Water on every string, the Black Sabbath Iron Man on every string, and if you've given them a couple right hand exercises as well. But right hand exercises, each of those, Spider Walk, Iron Man, Smoke on the Water, all of those are right hand exercises as well, but there's just more action with the left hand, so they kind of get deemed left hand exercises. So I can see that this is 26 minutes here. Usually beginner lessons are a half hour long, so I think that this is a pretty good example of what my first lessons are like, and what I think you can do to teach your students their first lesson. It can really get them going in a long way. And I'll have more lesson videos for intermediate players, advanced players, and what you should do on your second lesson. So watch those too. Thank you.